Order, roll call, please.
Kennegeeser,
Here.
Reeser,
Here.
Huffington. Here. Jackson,
Here.
Alexander. Here. Graves,
Here.
Shelby.
Here.
Item number 2, petitions from the audience. I didn't see any. Item number 3, discuss and possibly approve the minutes of the January 23rd, 2023 regular meeting.
I make a motion we approve.
I second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item number 4, mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought it might be appropriate to give you an update on our park pool. We didn't have a meeting last month. Didn't really have too much to report, so I thought it might be appropriate to do that. So regarding the park pool, with little funds to match grant opportunities that we might be able to get, I'd like to put that on hold, put that project on hold until probably next fiscal year, when we have an opportunity to budget some monies in to try to match some grants. Grant opportunities that I anticipate are going to be with the Mayor Foundation, with Cherokee Nation, and perhaps some with Grand Gateway as well. So I wanted to give that report and let you know that that didn't die. It's just not active right now until we have some ways to fund it. So do you have any questions for me?
So you're saying July or 24th budget
Yep.
year?
Yep. Yes, sir. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Item number 5, park report. Mr. Powell.
Been a while. I actually got a list of stuff. Some more or less updating what's going on.
Maybe it's a good
Of
list.
course, it's springtime, that time of year, basically getting everything fired up, maintenance on all the mowers, getting them ready. We probably would have started mowing this past week, but it's got a little soft on us, got a little rain. But, parking lots, their tennis parking lot, it's being used, it's usable. And they came a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago to finish it. And the day they were there, okay, so when the asphalt company done the asphalt, they damaged some of the existing sidewalk. So they're gonna repair, cutting out the part of the slabs that was damaged. And so it's gonna be a 3-day deal, dig that out, next day dig where the new sidewalk was going to go, and then frame it and pour it the next day. Thing is, that's when the tennis started. And they would have got it finished that week, but the very next day they had tournaments, and since then it's either been tournaments or it's been too wet. So, but they can use the parking lot, it's been usable, and like, as they do the tournaments, we're trying to see if we could get by, if not doing that sidewalk, but we'll have to, all the buses, they end up having to go on the existing sidewalk to keep from overhanging. The cars are fine, and even some trucks, but anyway, so I don't know when it's going. I gave them, tennis coach always gives me a copy of the schedule, so the contractors, I gave them a copy, and we was hoping over spring break, it'd be dry enough that they'd like 10 days there, no tournaments being played. Of course, they got another job going on. So I'm not sure when they're going to come back, but it's still to be completed. At least it's usable.
So they're driving over the hump with no problems?
Yeah, there's been, most people are like, why didn't they do that the first time? But,
Yeah, I heard that.
But no, it's gotten some compliments on it. It's just a mess right now from when all this rain and how they got started. But
So Frank, with all the rain that we had, have we been able to see how the drainage is?
hadn't been any issues with water. Yeah, so everything on that part's
Good.
fine.
We're wet the same places we've always been wet.
Okay. But it didn't create any new
Nah,
New
in
spots.
fact, some
No
of
new
what they
pond.
done helped us, like when they dug out originally, the old parking lots
Mhm.
and the area in between, you know, they took that dirt and, because we used to have real low spots in between the parking lot and the tennis, or the creek. So in the past, like if we would've got this rain, we wouldn't have been able to mow for, you know, a while because it'd hold water. So by them putting some there, it's actually helped even
Good.
some of us.
You mentioned something about buses and trucks, some trucks. Are you saying when the buses, do they park parallel to the street? Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, so an actual bus, like big bus, they don't,
Like a school bus?
yeah, they'll park either,
Okay.
usually over across the street, or sometimes they park on, is that lock?
Yeah,
Or sometimes they'll park over there, because usually you just, if you get a bus, it's usually maybe one. Most of the time, it's the vans, but it's, these new vans are almost like a short bus. They're a little bit longer than a van, and that's what I've been noticing that's been overhanging. You know, it's not so much overhanging out in the street, they pull up and they're blocking the existing sidewalk, which is why we need to put the new one.
but that'll be taken care of with the
Yeah,
new
that's what I'm saying,
sidewalk.
it
Okay.
would, yeah, and it would have been done if we, one tournament
Yeah.
messed it up, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so I started to go ahead and pull these out. I've had several people come to me, the little shrubs around the Whitaker Park sign in the corner, that more or less just
Yeah.
said they're ugly, take them out. So I started to, and I've got ideas, and I've even had one lady offer to buy the put stuff, you know, back. So the thing I've been hearing is not even actually to plant put anything back, flower or bushes, but just go back with river rock or maybe this mulch. And so that's basically kind of the only reason I haven't yanked them out yet. It's going to see kind of, I was thinking maybe go with that rubber mulch, you know, and then,
You can spray it and it,
yeah, you can spray it if grass goes up through it. Eventually, if someone did want to plant some flowers or something, I've got it in my flower beds, and you can still plant stuff. Meanwhile, it still looks nice around it. The
Thank
rock
you.
kind of scared me in case kids scatter it out and we mow.
well, the mulch, that rubber mulch would be the way to do it.
Yeah, and
It's cheap enough.
yeah, and it stays. I've had it in my flower bed. It don't fade or that rubber stuff. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's just, that's kind of, it don't cost enough to be an agenda item, you know, so that's why I didn't put it on the agenda, but just kind of get what your thoughts of,
I like the idea of that.
just go back with some mulch and then, you know, down the road, if someone offers to plant back flowers or something, that's fine. But
Do we have the garden club anymore? Is that still in existence?
We do.
We used to have, that would have been a good job for them to plant flowers around that, but
We have a master gardener class, and I know we've got some master gardeners around. I don't know if they still have if they have an organization.
They do. Kathy LaValle,
Yeah, I know Kathy was involved in
yeah,
it.
they do.
Kathy's the one that's been coming and kind of made, Collins Electric's the one that put all that in. And, but it's, I think it's served its time, but, and Kathy's the one that's came and kind of kept them watered and trimmed. I mean, I'd love to do a lot of flower beds in the park, but we just don't, we can't, you know, we don't have the manpower to take care of that stuff, but anyway,
What's is she one of them that's got an idea on what we ought to change it, or?
I didn't write
Oh.
the lady's
That's fine. It wasn't Kathy, though.
Koch. Man,
take and transplant those plants or those shrubs over by the bathroom or someplace.
yeah, and I don't know if they just haven't greened up yet, or if they actually have died there. But, I don't know if that's why everybody's saying take them out. But you're starting to get other viney stuff, you know, grow through them, and they're getting a little bit, starting to grow height-wise where they can't see the bottom of the sign. If we think we can pull them out and get them planted pretty quick somewhere, you know, we may try to do that. But anyway, for now, that's the plan, just you know, take it out and a few bags of mulch put in, okay? Guys, with over the winter, you know, tables and everything, we actually, our little trash can containers, we've actually pulled every one of them things in and we've rebuilt them, painted them and everything. We've made them more. If someone breaks them now, they're either doing it on purpose or a car. Because, you know, they were angle iron top and bottom, but you had a gap, so, you know, kids, you know, you can't do it. We put a support piece in the middle now. And all three of us in our shop have took turns just, so if they break it now, they're trying to. I mean, sledgehammer or car. But we've rebuilt every one of them, including the ones at Centennial. And so we've debated once taking them out, but they kind of hide the ugly trash cans and everything. You know, but anyway, that's one of the projects we've done over the winter. We do this every so many years. Some of the bottoms and the grills rust out. We welded new plates in the bottom of some of the grills. We got the arches built to replace the pergola at Centennial. They're in the shop, and that's when March got here and had to start firing things up. I mean, we just haven't got to install it yet, but we got to. It'd basically be about like the one we put at Bobby Buck, but a few feet longer. And I'm gonna put the same color light green metal that's on all the others at Centennial on it.
She was okay with whatever we put up.
Yeah.
She was super nice.
Yeah. And so I think we're kind of gonna, we're not gonna put it as long as that whole pad is, but I think,
It's pretty
I
long.
remember
Was it
correctly,
16 or
it was like-
20?
oh, that pad was 30.
Was it that long?
Yeah.
I was trying to remember. 'Cause
We're doing
when I measured it,
24 foot. I think you'll have 3 foot at the front and 3 foot at the back.
Which is
I
plenty.
think we're doing 24 foot shelter. And it's like 10 foot wide.
Thing's huge.
And so we got so they're built, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. The bench that was donated last year by that Catherine, we got it installed this past week.
I saw that, it looks nice.
Passed it around. She had originally wanted it by the splash pad, if we could. We had that one covered shelter on the pad that we have no table around, so you can see the picture if we done it. So we thought that metal bench is gonna get hot out in the sun, so we put it, and she loved it. As soon as we done it, sent her a picture. She's in Ohio or somewhere.
Now, who is it?
Catherine Kessler, I think, is the lady that bought this bench.
Is she from this area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's her mom. It's either her mom or it's a fellow student, like but
Carol White? Carol White?
Do we put anything on these things that are donated, that where they came from, or a little?
we went to council with like a thank you to her. You know, she wasn't here, but back in the fall, we've had it quite a while. She knew we was waiting to install it and stuff.
Oh,
You know, we've
I see now.
Oh, and it is heavy. Them ends, I don't know if they're solid cast or something, but that thing's heavy. We joked around, we could not mounted it.
What, you gonna run off?
Yeah. So, we got that done. Speaking of benches, so we took all the benches from the pool, or tables, and we had to do some work on, a lot of those were rusting out on the bottom of the legs. We had to do a bunch of repair work, but we took them and used those at Bobby Buck. That way they're still getting used. And since it's just sitting there at the pool, you know, plus they were that coated stuff, a little bit harder to vandalize, not that they can't, but.
How's our homeless doing?
Well, in the winter,
underneath
we locked the bathrooms. We go, our thing's the daylight deal. And so once that hits in November, we lock the bathrooms when we leave at 3:30, because it usually gets dark at 5 in the winter. last summer, homeless was a major issue. We've just fired them back up. And the police, last year, we got it to where their night shift would come by and lock them up for us. And they're still trying to get in the routine, I guess, because they've been real hit and miss. It's funny, they things can be locked up for 3 months. First night we had them open, bam, someone was sleeping in it. I mean, I don't know if they go check them every night, but
There was somebody that won the, was it Farian? It's got the big wooden structure and fireplace looking deal in the center of it.
well, we've been having trouble
2 or 3
there.
people sleeping in there.
We're having trouble them trying to build, they're getting whatever they can, whether it's limbs, 2x4s, whatever, and they're, it's a 4-side grill.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to contact the police more than once on that, and we assume they're trying to just keep warm, but I don't know what, if it got away from them. But,
Yeah, I noticed somebody asked me, and so I drove by there, and there was a bunch of people underneath there.
yeah, and I notified them, I got back with the police actually just today about that, and then, well, no, some kids had a party in by the parking lot, by the splash pad, with, a bunch of beer cans and stuff.
As close as the police station is now.
Yeah, it's either they party or they just cleaned their car out or something, but there's about 12, 13 beer cans right there. But as for vandalism, now the spring's here, weather's warming up, this is when that'll start, But, okay. Here's for this, give these out, and pass them to Dennis, and I usually been turning in the numbers on the cemetery to show where we're at. Last year was, it's a bad thing to say when the cemetery, any other time you want to be busy, and when the cemetery's busy, it's, it's a bad thing. It was some of the most funerals and most revenue we've brought in the last
Really?
10 years or so, but that's not a good thing. And then it shows where we're at the beginning of this year. I got one. We haven't got to do the dirt work around the Bobby Buck shelter yet, because that's when the rain's, where it is, Bobby Buck's stays pretty soft. And a lot of times we build the shelters and we bring fill around it, and we still have yet to be able to do that. And, but that's on the list. The only other thing I really have is, with budget coming up, I don't really have that much this year on the budget for projects. But one thing I've had a few people mention to me is they'd like to see a little bit more for the toddlers, which, like even the toy at Bobby Buck or the last new toy at Whitaker, they are section components that's based for 2 to 5 years old, and then 5 to 12. Yeah, we do have spring riders, but I guess some would like to see a little bit more. And like east of the pond is where that whole area is basically for small kids. When throughout the rest of the park, we might have some stuff mixed in. We got infant and toddler swings scattered everywhere in all the parks. But anyway, that's something. Most of the time, if anything, it's a freestanding thing, for toddlers. I mean, someone did mention up like daycares, they always have the toys for small kids. So anyway, that's something I'm kind of looking into, for next year. But other than that, that's about all I got. Just been staying busy.
When do you have to present your proposed budget for the next year?
That'll be this next, in April, we'll get.
Yeah, we started that process, and we'll review in April, and
how much use does that sand volleyball area get?
The basketball is probably the most used thing. The volleyball goes in spurts. I don't know if the group of kids will all of a sudden get a little tournament or something going, and it'll be used. You don't see it used much during the day, but I've gone through in the evenings, especially not so much in the winter and stuff, but in the summer, it could go either way. I can think of two things that would probably get used more between a pickleball court and a skateboard park. Skateboard park's what I get the most.
We were thinking about we could resurface that and put about, 4 or 5 pickleball courts in there?
I wouldn't go 4 or 5. I'd go 1 or 2.
Maybe you'd get
and
more
split
use
with
that way.
maybe a skateboard, because a skateboard park's what I get the most. And I'm for a skateboard park because it gets the skateboarders off the tennis courts, pickleball court. We've got 2 courts over there. No one's ever asked me to play on them, pickleball. And I've called and they said it's like $40,000 to do a court, a single court. And that's from the company that overlaid the tennis deal they built. That's what they do.
What would a skateboard park cost?
I haven't priced one of those, but that's been beat around for a long time. It's always where to put it. But that's what I get hammered with.
Oh, and you
the
see
most,
signs
is
all over town, no skateboarding on our business
Yeah,
property.
skateboard blows everything else,
Yeah.
not even close. It's what
There's a
we're
ton
getting
of
comments.
skateboarders.
Claremore's got a pretty nice one that they put out.
Yeah, you can go big time like a Wasso.
Yeah, in Wausau, yep.
Yeah.
Are there liability issues that go with a skateboard park
It's all-
That's stuff I'm checking into, but the way I take it, it's kind of like a pool, when they put up no lifeguards, you're at your own risk. It's kind of like, that's the way I take it with the skateboard. You put a sign up that we're.
could happen, but
I mean, the only time we'd be liable probably is if, like a maintenance issue and we didn't catch it, and it caused, and that's the only downside of,
Wouldn't a,
not for skateboard parks, just something else to.
wouldn't a skateboard park take a bigger footprint though than what that volleyball court is?
I don't think it'd be
To
bigger
make
than
it-
that volleyball
To
court.
make it a good one?
I don't think it'd be bigger than the volleyball.
Well, I've actually got some plans and stuff for those, and I haven't looked at them in a while, but there's 2 approaches to those skateboards to address the thing you're talking about. Some of them are made with a lot of contours
Yeah,
and slope,
yeah.
but the other
Below
ones
ground,
are.
then there's your below ground concrete, like I said, like the fancy Owasso one.
Now, they now make them on just a flat concrete surface, and you bring in your different ramps, and they bolt into that concrete. So it's on a flat surface with different types of,
If someone's good at it, you can get great, like Tony Hawk, the professional skateboarder. I think him, that Deerick, does that ridiculous show. Anyway, I think they do grants and stuff.
yeah, they're not as costly as you would think. And I had the same concern Ron did initially, was,
The
man,
biggest
these are gonna
thing
be an
is
insurance
always
nightmare
where.
with
What?
a skateboard
Skateboard
park. But as it turns out, I think what Frank's alluded, as long as it's negligence that gets you, usually with insurance.
Yeah.
But we would have to make sure we maintain it and keep it updated, things like that. But
The
They're actually-
only other, I don't even know if to go there. I haven't heard it from the city of Claremore, but like one of the guys that works for me lives there and from there. You hear sometimes they said that they regret it because it kind of becomes a hangout, which is the last thing we probably want right in the middle of the park. But that was always the issue with the skateboard parks when they come up of where, because I guess they are noisy. So you don't, but to me, that would be a perfect spot.
Couldn't you put a skateboard park just north of the swimming pool in that valley, that hole?
We could, or we could put it where the pool is.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
But,
disagree.
Yeah, you
One
can,
bit.
You just
that would be
need
my thing, but,
a flat spot. It's-
yeah, the only thing would be if, yeah, it'd work,
You'd have to
The
figure out
floodwaters
drainage,
don't
you have to
hurt
figure out
anything.
some way to drain it, so it didn't become a bathtub, but yeah.
well, you'd have to check the material it's used. I mean, I don't know if floodwaters would hurt it. I mean, once every 2 years, you know, that floods. You're taking away maybe some
Well, future
overflow
expansions.
parking. Yeah, that'd be the only downside if you wanted to put it there. You're taking away from an area that, you know, like moving the park, overflow parking, you know, play baseball. I mean, you're taking away, you know,
But if you do it like Claremore did, they basically, there's a company that builds these things, not that
Yeah.
builds the ramps and things. And you can take that and move those.
Yeah.
You just pick them up. If you want to move it to another location, you obviously have to pour another pad. But you go put these different ramps down in another location, so they are movable.
probably be like that thing they put in at the rec center, where that company actually had
front.
specs on the concrete and everything. It'd probably be like that. I mean, you would bid it out with, like you said, the companies, and I don't know, you know, they'd probably do it all, honestly. But, you know, we could still look at pickleball somewhere, but to me, the skateboarders, that,
Well, I mean, you're starting to see more and more, and even if you read online, that's one of the complaints, there's no place to skateboard.
yeah, and like I said,
Blah, blah, blah.
because of it, you know, it gets them off sidewalks, tennis courts, you know, other things, and that's for the kids, when, you know, or we could look at doing both, the skateboard, you know, I don't know how much a skateboard park is, like I said, I was told the pickleball court's like 40,000 per court. You could always just do one, you know, and if it takes off, you know, add.
I'll bring the numbers with me next time. I've got a number in my head, but it sounds,
I've
ridiculously low, so.
I've never actually, I mean, I've got some paperwork on them, but I've never called and actually, you know,
Well, there's an organization that will give you, kind of what size you need to build based upon your population.
Yeah.
So it's depending on, and what we fit into was a small skateboard park. We didn't, you know, fit one of these big ones, but, they've got all the information you need to put one in place.
I mean, I'll be honest, and when you brought the volleyball, I mean, actually, this just came up to me. I mean, it's not something I even really thought about putting there, but just with the talk we're having, I think the skateboard park would get used a lot more than the volleyball.
Yeah, or, and a pickleball court would probably be used daily almost,
Yeah,
in the evenings.
like I said, they
So I would just
Go
tell
ahead.
you, I would just tell you on the pickleball court, since I'm
They
kind
say
of,
that's the fastest growing sport in the country, in the United States right now, is pickleball.
yeah, but it's not a kid's
Yeah.
sport.
well, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
So we've started having pickleball on Thursday nights now, and so that's where the younger generation. Thursday nights, down at the rec center.
Younger generation,
Yep.
that doesn't help me.
Well, if you want that generation, that's Tuesday and Thursday mornings. But anyway,
I know.
so it is going younger, and so you realize you haven't seen many pickleball or any pickleball out there on the tennis courts because the nets are too high, they're too long. They're about 4 inches. Yeah, I know, but I'm just telling you from a pure standpoint, you want it like it's supposed to be. I'm just telling you.
That's all it needs is nets. There's 2 courts there
Right.
taped off.
So since we've kind of lapsed into that, the people I'm playing with said, yeah, if we had courts, we would go out, you know, and play. If, you know, and right now they're kind of waiting on tennis to be finished, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
you know,
I
'cause-
don't know, I wouldn't want to do it. I don't know if Buddy at the street, like if we could somehow, like, drill some holes in the courts, like where the pickleball nets would go, you know, bore
Right.
and then mount posts, or even if they're mounted where they can be
removed, yeah. So that's the same place I'm going with my thoughts. is
But I
what's
wouldn't
in-
do to another, when we already got two, I would just do it on the two that's already there.
Exactly, and see how much
But
is used.
I don't wanna be the one to bore in there. I don't know if that's something we would bid out to a contractor. Cause if you mess the
Got some
courts up,
conversion nets for courts, tennis and pickleball, that some type of contraption that pulls them down in a certain area, you know, as
Well, you've got,
popular as it's getting.
well, it's like
that's
when
probably
tennis
neat.
is over,
well, see,
we
so
would
the
take
ten,
those two tennis nets down
sure.
and then put up the pickleball courts. You would still have 6 tennis nets to play on, you know?
So the answer to your
Well,
question
They
is,
could just lower them and just automate, make it a little more user-friendly to raise and lower. for-
Actually, if the tennis nets pulled down in the middle, they probably are about the height of a pickleball.
so you can take, there's a strap in the middle of the tennis net that you can tighten up. I don't know if, do you have straps on our tennis courts?
Way we always done it in the past, there used to be, they've all disappeared.
Right.
And that always came back on the school. And so I think most of them now, the straps have disappeared, yeah.
So if we had straps, you could do that. The issue is the net is still going to be too long. And so pickleball players, I thought, you know, if you're just wanting to do pickleball for just a little fun, like with your family, yes. But if you're wanting to play kind of competitive, you want the actual net out there that's the right size. So I like the idea that you proposed of
We
trying to
can do
figure out
that,
how to drill some holes and then put in some.
Because it's asphalt and then concrete, that I just don't wanna screw that, you know, because once you do it, it's permanent.
Yeah, there's no fixing it.
I don't, yeah, and I don't know if it'd be one of those you actually bore, if you put a plate on the bottom and just try to anchor them, and then when you're done, you pull up the anchor. I don't know the best way, being in the tennis is still, you know, but that would be I'd give you 2 courts.
Well, that's kind of where my thought process is going, has been, and as I talk to the people at the rec center that do wanna play outdoors, is, you know, we're trying to figure out possibilities, and
I mean, honestly, don't really know why the width is an issue when you play inside the lines.
you just have to be a pickleball player
I mean, I've played it, I don't understand why, but,
What are the dimensions of a pickleball court? How big a slab do you need?
a pickleball court, Chris, is 20 feet wide and 44 feet long.
20 by 44?
Yes.
you can almost do 2 pickleballs to a tennis court. The tennis net's 42 foot wide.
How many people play pickleball? I'm just curious now, since this is being
I mean,
brought.
it is becoming more, like when they put in these courts, you know, they said okay, so we done it the way we did because that company builds them.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about pickleball, and he's one that told me most towns, this is what they do first. They'll tape off tennis court or 2, see how many people play, and they go and then decide from there if to put in a court. I'm going off what the company, he said that's why he usually, very seldom do people just automatically put in a court. But he says, you know, of course, this is Tulsa and the country club. He said, you go to Tulsa Country Club, and there's a waiting list to play. Well, once again, it's different in Pryor.
Yeah.
But, I know it's used a lot. I've played it up at, you know, Big Cedar, but yeah, so that's one thing that could be done. And that's relatively new. I mean, if you're gonna spend 40,000, I'd still rather go to a skateboard.
I'd build a skate park.
We can
Skateboard park,
temporarily
pickleball.
try to do this pickleball, because skateboarding's has been an issue for I've been here 20 years at the park, and it's came up for years when pickleball is relatively new, and we can make it happen probably at the tennis courts temporary, and once again, do that, and if it gets overwhelmed, then we do look at putting courts in, you know, but, because if you're looking at more than one court, then the price just went up when they said it's 40,000 for and that was 6 months ago. With material, it might be even more now, but.
So Keith, can I answer your question? There's probably around 30 people that play pickleball on Tuesday and Thursday mornings.
Okay.
Okay, now, they're not all 30 there at the same time. Usually, the crowd is around 18 to 20, but I would say 30 is a fair number of just, that in a couple of weeks, those people run through there. And then on Thursday nights, there's another 20 people that are showing up and playing from 7 to 8:30, or whenever they quit. And that's a different group of people than that come in the mornings. So a year ago, we started with 7 people. And we said we're going to try to get this going. And so in a year, in the month, it's grown,
You've more than doubled.
yeah. And, so,
I know you couldn't leave it posted. I would just have to get with might get with Merit, the ones that done the tennis courts, and see what they recommend, if people's actually done that on a tennis court. Not just tape it off, but actually do posts, removable posts.
I mean, you could
Got the
see
new
it.
lights, I could see it really taking up, they still haven't got to install the lights on the, once again, because they have to come in, they have to come in all the way back behind and go in from the middle. And so once again, with all this rain, they can't get
Yes.
their truck. So we've got all the courts, lights on the west, or east courts, and the outer lights on the far west end of the west courts. So we still got about 12 lights in our shop. So the others work, they're just not the LED yet.
so Frank, on the volleyball court, is underneath the sand, is there a solid piece of
I
concrete
think
underneath
it's
that?
concrete. That's where the existing tennis courts
Right.
used to be years ago. Yep. And the fence is already there,
Yeah,
you know.
there's a lot of pluses that are
They're- yeah,
already in place for that,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've got some lights in the corner there, but there's none on the south that face, or north that face back. But we could always look at getting another pole installed if we go that route. But, so that's something we can be thinking about for this new budget.
So kind of where Bill and I were talking about before the meeting, I was gonna approach Larry and you between now and the next meeting and kind of talk about the budget for next year and see what the possibility would be of putting something together to either what you suggested on the tennis courts or what we were thinking about on the volleyball courts, and see if that could be something to put in next year's budget
Yeah,
to kind of get going.
I can try to I'll call Merit first and see what, if they recommend on the poles. Because that's the only issue, it's already, if you do the poles, then, all you have to buy two net, buy a couple net. So it's just gonna be a matter of boring or mounting the post, so. Or sleeve somehow, where it drops down in, and then when tennis fires back up, you pull the pole and there's a plate. It's just a matter of how to, I've never really done anything with asphalt. I don't really know how you.
I think you're gonna, once you start boring it, you're gonna tear up a lot more than just that little hole.
Well,
They
I
probably would go ahead and pour concrete around.
pour a collar around it. You don't want the water seeping into that asphalt sideways, and that's where it'll freeze it. But if
Yeah.
you put a collar in there, that'd keep the water out of it.
With the water table, what it is over there at those tennis courts,
Yeah.
you may have that hole full of water all
You
the
can make a
time.
marine out
That's,
of it
it's
sometimes.
bad, I may make that look good, probably less than a week after they were done, get cracks this wide, but they can't help that, they can't,
Well, just, I'm curious as, we're talking about these things and trying to get an idea of cost. What's it cost for a yard of concrete? Who's
It's
bought-
gone up to about $130 a yard.
So I was gonna say that's what it is, 130.
Well, if my math is right, and it's probably not, but at a 20 by 44 court, that should be about 32 yards of concrete, 4 inches thick. That's probably what you're looking at is for a pad. And what'd you say, 32 times
130.
130? Now, that's just the concrete, right?
Then make
That's,
that.
you know, you're gonna be surprised, you know what the number is? It's
Make-
$4,000.
Make that about 4 inches thick, so you got something.
I did,
Oh, okay.
yeah, if you take it, and like I said, if I did my math right. It's 9 square, a yard is actually 9 square feet, 4 inches thick.
And your concrete would probably be a little bit bigger than the.
Well, you'd have to put an apron
Yeah.
around it, yeah, and
I
that
don't
would
know
probably
if
be
the
something.
Concrete is the actual biggest cost of the core, the material. Cause I know it's the same, when they done the courts, they said that it's hard to get right now. That's why a lot of the streets.
What's hard? Concrete?
Coating, no, the
Oh.
coating. It's that oil-based, kind of the same stuff they put on streets. And that's why a lot of your towns haven't done crosswalks and all that. Last year, you couldn't get the paint. And so that was one of the delays when they overlaid the courts, was getting that the material, the coating. And so I don't know if that's the cost. Now, on that 40,000, that include fence. He said it's like he said between 30 and 35,000 for the court, and then you're gonna have to fence it off and through any.
And that's with some type of an overlay on it.
Well,
That's,
I'd be ready to go, painted, striped off, painted off. Of course, their lines wouldn't be taped off, they'd be painted and, you know, you're paying their labor, I'm sure, but.
well, it doesn't sound like it's cost prohibitive. It ought to be I mean, we ought to have a lot of options if that's, you know, it doesn't, if you can get Rick Ogden, I don't know if Rick's retired, but if you can get him to play pickleball, he can definitely help you get the concrete finished.
Ah,
But we'd probably do well, I don't know, if they're doing the whole court, if we would do the concrete, or if they would want it, you know, they might want it certain, you know, spec'd out a certain way, but,
well, you know, we've got some people that play pickleball that know how to set out a court and would know how much apron you would need around it and.
well, Merritt, though, that's what they do. I mean, it's not like we'll build this court, you know, we'll have it done. So, I mean, I can Google up the deals, but, you know, Merritt will build the court. But back to the court, if we build the courts back to county for 20 years, that was always the skateboard park. Where do we put the court? If we're gonna reuse the volleyball court, I would like to see the skateboard park there.
And I don't think these are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
I think what you're hearing is there's probably enough demand that at least we can take a look at it and run the numbers on it and see if it's kind of and at the end of the day, you're the one that has to end up maintaining, you know, and keeping these things operational, but.
Skateboard
I
park,
think if we could come up with the numbers, and then if we could come up with the money, we could probably find places to put both of them.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the,
Like I said, we
what's
can
the
always-
park board's budget total? What's the big picture budget number?
the capital outlay,
Yeah.
like for projects, so it just depends what I usually ask for.
And that's what
Like
you're
the-
working on right now, correct?
Yeah, like
But,
this
what
past
was it
year,
last year?
mine was 120,000,
120 last year?
yeah, and then a few years before that, it might only been 40,000 if I just asked for a couple of mowers. You know, 10 years ago, it was 350,000 when we got our shop.
Now, you're talking about capital
Yeah,
improvement.
capital,
That's capital.
Like
What's the
cemetery
total-
this
What's the
year.
total budget?
pretty big.
Probably,
I've asked this
100,000.
before, but can we
Is
get
it-
a
I know there's a
copy
lot
of the
more
budget? Can we
components
see the
to it,
budget?
but how does that relate to the total budget, this 120? capital?
Ron, for some reason, I think it's gone up, it got merged with the cemetery, and I want to
Well,
say,
they're still separate budgets.
oh, okay, then the number, I thought the number was up into the 400,000s,
No, I still got total
and I
separate.
may be all wet. It's been a while since I've seen it.
So since you're working on it now, you could actually get figures for the skateboard park and for the pickleball, and then possibly the toddler toys? And
So
then,
490,000 is the park budget, that includes everything.
Salaries,
Salaries,
wages,
That includes 120,000 in the capital outlay?
Capital outlay's not included with that.
Oh, it's not.
That's your insurance, repair and maintenance supplies,
That's just
salaries,
operations.
yeah, all operations stuff.
So we have a capital outlay item that is supported by, separately by percentage of sales tax. And we will normally have something in parks from that capital outlay section. Last year, we had 116,000 budgeted in the capital outlay section. Capital outlay has normally to
And
do.
that is shared with other departments, that whole capital outlay account?
Yeah, yeah, so there are different, line items. For instance, cemetery, parks, library, police department, fire department. So we'll
Right.
share
The total
line items
capital
out
outlay,
of the capital outlay.
Like I had
section.
asked for,
which is all supported by sales tax then?
Yes, yeah, a percentage of sales tax.
like I had budgeted in for the overlay of the tennis courts, the Bobby Buck shelter, so that's for the 116, you know. I'd call and get a budget number for the, like, same way for this pickleball or skateboard, I would call ahead, get with the company, get a budget number from them, what I would need to budget. My only concern is, and we're talking a couple of major things here, more money for more repair and maintenance, more help. I mean, I only got 2 guys at the park. That's the only other issue I'm having is, you know, is more, like, we just, time we do the shelter there, that's 2 more shelters we just built this winter. Well, shelters need paint and, you know, repainted. I mean,
Well, just out of curiosity, what's the salary line item on that budget?
Salary line item, park salaries, 140,000.
So we maintain all the park systems, everything, with $140,000 worth of labor. Now, I know we're not in the business of hiring people for the parks, but for those of us that have worked in other industries, how far can $140,000 go?
That's kind of a lean machine right there.
It is an extremely lean machine. And it is also has something about the way that we manage our youth sports and our youth facilities. This is all done pretty much with the support of the parents and the youth kids. And you guys, most of you have lived through that. So it's a different model than most of the other cities have. But we do it on $100,000 and some $1,000 for the park. So when Frank's saying, hey, I gotta think about what I can get, and that's on top of the mowing. I mean, just the mowing.
that's, you know, every time we put up a toy or a shelter, you know, it's kind of, it's the same way I've said the cemetery. You've had 3 guys out there for as far back as I know, and every year we do 100 burials. That's more, that we don't ever get any, you know, we got the same 3 guys we've had at the cemetery forever. But, you know, from the time I started, you know, telling how many more 1,000 burials there's been, more monuments to mow around and stuff, you know, same way. So that's the, it's not like I haven't thought of a lot of things, or I may not push a lot of it because I know, you know, when you add stuff, it takes maintenance. So, but anyway, I would hope the pickleball and the skateboard wouldn't take a whole lot. You know, the biggest concern, well, if you do the pickleball without the skateboard part, the concern is skateboarders. You know, that's the, you know, that new flat spot. And so, we've been pretty lucky on the tennis. You know, we've caught a few, and especially the basketball court. I ran a bunch off, and they don't understand just riding on them. It's not that bad, but it's when they jump them up and it takes chunks out of that asphalt and the color. You know, a lot of times these companies leave us extra of the coating to touch up, but we don't have the capability to, you know, to take, you know, fix chunks out of the, you know, of it.
Out of curiosity, 120,000 is the parks portion of the capital outlay account. What is the total capital outlay account?
So,
I know there's a lot of things in there, but I'm just,
yeah, there are, and you're asking because you want to know, and you haven't seen it before, but I'll just show you different items in this 44 fund.
okay.
All right. So that 44 fund budgeted $848,000.
So that's, okay, out of that, the park gets 120 at this point?
Yeah, so, I mean, parks might get 120, or they might get 140. I mean, or
Just
they
to-
might get, 80.
Depends on the sales tax,
It
but
depends-
percentage-wise, that's
Depends on
kind of
what the
where they're at.
projects are.
Yeah, like last year, I asked for what, 180,000 because of the new bathrooms.
Right.
You know, so it just depends what project we're asking for. You know, depends on.
So,
You're gonna have to rob Peter to pay Paul if you're gonna move money around and increase the park's capital outlay account, right? Basically.
no, not really.
No?
Not really. You just, in the budgeting process, each one of the department heads will have the ability to try to budget something from the capital outlay section.
Right.
We call that the 44 fund. It's a separate fund than the Parks Department fund. That's funded out of our general fund, which funds a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. So what we try to do when we're doing the budget preparation each year, each one of the department heads, you know, they say
Put
this.
a wish list.
Yeah, wish list, and it's normally gonna be equipment, it's gonna be equipment, but this is a wish list that we'll have for the Parks Department. So, Frank, as you and I were talking, last week, you know, what does it look like, you know?
And it's kind of, I was telling you, like, so the last couple of years for the cemetery, I've gotten them new tractors. I was telling him I may not even ask for anything this year for the cemetery capital outlay.
Right.
And then at the moment on the park, I didn't really, until tonight, I didn't really have too much of an idea, because I'm good on equipment. Well, there's one piece of equipment I was gonna ask for.
What does capital outlay look like for the golf course?
For the golf course, that's wide open for the golf course right now. So, right now in capital outlay for the golf course, there's $75,000 that is budgeted for this year. They've used about $22,000 of it.
And what happens to it at the end of the budget cycle?
We just start the budget. It's not like that. It's not like it holds over the next year. We budget,
Just
my
rebudget.
budget, yeah, for the next year.
So Frank, just as maybe something to get going for next month's meeting, if you could bring us back some figures of what it would cost to drill and do those 2 pickleball courts on the existing tennis courts, and then on the volleyball courts, see what it would cost to put in a pickleball court and a skateboard park. And
I'd probably only do so much on that one, because that'll include,
well,
not demolition of the volleyball. I mean, you know, I mean, they'll actually have to do, I mean, they can tell me up front, well, it costs this much to build, that, like, if they gotta do a bunch of work, I mean,
so in a skateboard park, would you have to take down the fence?
no, well, we're gonna have to take the fence down and get the sand out, you know.
But you wouldn't have to take down all 4 sides of the.
No, no.
just-
We'd
Well,
be able-
that'd depend on the company building the putting the stuff in.
We'd be able to get some rough number estimates.
Right.
And that's what you're asking for.
That's
some
exactly
rough-
right.
Cause they
rough
bring
numbers.
in an actual asphalt machine.
If we could find out what it would cost to pad the inside of that fence all the way, pad that flat with concrete, you could go either way then with the, you know, add to it for a pickleball court or add for, but we gotta know how much that's gonna
I'm just
cost
gonna
us
go get close, is what I'm
to
saying.
do that, put that in.
Know it exactly.
I think they call those planning grade numbers.
Yeah. that's-
We're looking for planning grade numbers that we can plan with.
'cause
Conceptual number.
Cause they'll come in, like I said, when they done the basketball and the tennis both, like when they, not even building, but overlaid them, and they actually bring in an asphalt machine. So, as long as it fits in between 2 poles, may have to take a pole out even, I don't know. you
I
know.
don't think you wanna do asphalt on a skateboard park? I don't think that'd hold up real well.
Well,
would
he's
it?
talking about doing
He's talking
pickleball
about
and
pickleball.
skateboard. But,
2 different surfaces.
But, yeah, I was thinking about 2 different services, it'd be 2 different plans.
But I can see them doing asphalt, cause a lot of when you got the money, that's the new thing for most of the playground structures. You know, where we have sand, is when you got the money, the asphalt, and they do that colored, that's what they put around the toys now.
It's a rubbery substance.
Yeah, there's the
Soft-
mats
the
and then
soft
the,
surface.
yeah. But, I don't know what they would do around the skateboard.
So how much have you spent on your, capital outlay budget this year?
Actually, it was 116, but when it's all said and done, I'll probably spend about 125 because of the
Okay, so you've,
tennis
Used
court.
it all.
you basically used it all then.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, if there was any left over, and we could do those two holes,
and usually on the capital
You ever
outlay,
seen any left over?
I go ahead already knowing, like the tractor, lawnmower. I've had a playground company already give me to say the Bobby Buck toy. Pretty much usually when I go into capital outlay, unless there's something unforeseen, it's not spot on, but it's pretty close to what, like the tennis court overlay, they come and measure it and they're the ones that give me the quote on it. And so, but,
We would wanna get an opinion about, what the consequences were gonna be if we bore holes in the tennis court. So, but we can get opinions about that. We can find out what those costs would be.
right?
you said that that's gonna be the number one, I didn't think about that, about any water getting, because we already have the issues of, that'll be the issue, of keeping water from getting down that sleeve or.
Yeah. But they'll have a way to seal that.
So, yeah, the tennis court or the pickleball, putting them at the tennis courts, I don't think that'll be too hard to get a cost. The skateboard deal, because there's gonna be somebody, if it's like with toys, they can tell, the company, I haven't dealt with a skateboard company yet, but kind of like the splash pad, there's like 1,000 components you can choose from. So depending on which component I put, it's gonna determine the cost of the skateboard part. So skateboard part, I'm sure all between the ramps, swirls, tunnels, it probably depends what I choose. And I don't know anything about skateboard part really, so that's gonna be something we might even try to get kids involved.
Sounds like we might get an education.
Yeah, the skateboard one I think will be a little bit harder, but I do got 2 or 3 months to actually I don't think I'll have everything in,
I like the idea of what you just said about possibly getting some kids involved.
of what they would.
Yes.
want.
The ones that do
And,
skate.
some may say, well, we go to Claremore, but we don't like there, and,
I think that'd be great to get feedback.
so,
Maybe talk to a high school counselor.
Skateboard park at Claremore, I believe, is there at the rec center.
yeah, it's at their.
Yes.
So we've got a good
Where's that
connection
at?
there at the rec
Somewhere
center.
in the ball field floor?
What's that?
No, it's,
I've done seen
west
people
side
make comments,
of
they go to
Mexico,
that
right
one,
across the street.
because there's not one here.
It'd be great to get feedback to help
Over
you
by
to
the,
know what
uh,
to plan for.
Pickleball's
Yeah.
pickleball.
Right.
I was going,
It's on the
mean,
west
mean
side,
that,
right there on the highway.
since they did paint that yellow, one more coat,
39.
it doesn't look the greatest.
Oh, that is,
One more coat would help make it
Okay.
look a little bit better.
I'll tell them.
So, okay, I know what I'll be doing the next few weeks,
Well,
so,
we're just trying to get, I'm just hoping to get it something into the budget for next year.
yeah.
so that-
Well, and never even crossed my mind to do away with the volleyball until just tonight when it came up. And
You think the concrete's very good underneath?
it's probably better than what's now, concrete. Been there for, man, I can barely remember as a kid the tennis courts. I think it's pretty thick from what I've been told.
Be
So
interesting
you-
to see.
I'm sure
Maybe in a
they
chance we
wouldn't
wouldn't
use
have
the
to redo it?
existing.
My thoughts are you could, if it's not really bad, yeah, just pour a skim coat it and just, that's where
I think you're just gonna have to get some quotes and figure it out.
Yeah.
I bet you could build, if that concrete's not that bad, you could set up your skate park right there for under $20,000.
So how deep is the sand that's on it? Do you have any idea?
I haven't
Probably 8 or
added
10
any in
inches.
a long time because there's no way to do it without taking the fence down. When we did replace that fence about 10 years ago, I think we hauled in a couple big old loads. I'm gonna say it's pretty deep.
That's what
I mean,
thought,
even in
10
the
or 12
toys, I've
inches.
got, they're 6 to 8 inches around the toys. There's a certain spot in the corner there that twice, like apparently we got it fixed, but twice, like we've gotten huge rains, and the railroad ties that was there, it's like washed them out, and man, we lost a ton of sand, like got washed out. And then we just went there and kind of tried to respread the sand around, but we dug out around it and poured concrete and stuff, and
But we could, I think an easy one for that would be take out a section of that fence like you were talking about. You don't have to take out, and take a little skid steer in there with front end loader. and you can-
I
you can
didn't
load that
mean
out.
to take the whole thing.
Yeah, I know.
down.
I was just talking about the logistics of how we would get that sand out of there,
Yeah,
and that'd be a day-long job probably for somebody, I'd guess. Wouldn't be much more than that.
taking the, and loosening it and rolling it back was, the fun part would be getting it back tight, getting it back.
Take a few come-alongs, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we had that done, y'all remember when I had that done? It's when
I
we,
was in my 20s whenever y'all put that out there.
no, the fence.
Oh,
Because it's when we overlaid the basketball court to look like the tennis court, and so we redone the fence, and I put up all new backboard, like, I spent,
6 years ago?
so I'll say 6 to 8.
That's what I thought.
They were
That's-
after the
because-
tennis courts, and tennis courts was like,
Cause I
10
came
to 11.
on just about then, and I think that's whenever that was taking place.
and I've been meaning, they've never been redone, not once, and I've,
Well, there's probably give us an idea, those basketball courts, when we turn those into basketball from tennis,
it's like 15,000.
but weren't those done the same time as the volleyball courts?
No, that's what I'm saying, it was, well, it was.
No, I'm talking about the original concrete.
Oh, the concrete,
I think it wouldn't
well,
surprise me
no,
if
they
they're
built
about,
the tennis courts that are there now, like in the 80s. The ones in the Whitaker were there way back in 60s or 70s.
but how good a shape are the basketball courts in that slab that we play basketball on now?
Well, when we overlaid them, like I said, they brought in an asphalt machine, they put
They just
asphalt over
overlaid
them.
So
Yeah.
it was good enough base on it to just overlay it, which
Well,
would be a lot.
it was asphalt, they put asphalt over asphalt. I don't know what the concrete looks like. I've never seen any of it's down there. So when they turned on the basketball, they asphalted it. So it was asphalt already. So I don't know what the concrete underneath is. So when they done the basketball, then they re-overlaid asphalt. Pryor.
So it sounds like, I think just to kind of wrap this, is we don't have any showstoppers that we could say right now that would keep us from moving forward with looking at it.
No, I don't see anything not keeping it from being
Yeah.
done,
So I think that's kind of where we're at. We know we're gonna have to get funding.
Yeah.
It's budgeting time. Gotta get some rough ideas, some planning,
What you
plan
don't-
quality stuff.
What they're gonna look at, I guarantee you though, on the pickleball is like tennis. So there will be some stuff with the pickleball. Okay, so that's the issue with the tennis courts. When they built them, it was over those swamp grounds. They put in no drainage. That's why we have all the splitting. Your new courts have drainage underneath them. So they're gonna do the same thing to pickleball, so they don't split and crack. So yeah, there is gonna be a little bit more to the pickleball problem.
But that's
They're
not a
just gonna go in there-
showstopper.
No.
That's just
it's
something we
a
have to
matter if
think
they have to rip out, but they're not just gonna go in there and overlay asphalt and then put a pickleball court there, because if it's set on in the water, then then it's gonna look like the tennis courts over there, split and cracked, and so. That might be where some of the other costs come from on the pickleball court, they had to do the drainage underneath and stuff. So, but nothing there that can't be done.
Anything else for Frank?
No, sir, thank you.
Frank, to be honest, I was really gonna do this in private and,
Thank you, Frank.
not throw that. Anyway, it just all happened, so. I had a plan, Larry.
Golf course, item 6, the golf course report. Dennis couldn't be here, but he texted me and said, let everybody know that, we had a real good February. We had a good February. March is probably gonna be better than we thought it would be with, all the weather we had. We had a tournament there Saturday, had 108 golfers. I know the tournament, it was a Wagner tournament that was there for, Special Olympics. And I think I saw on the board where they like made 9,000, they made 9,000 out of it. And we had, you know, the golf course had a good day. A lot better than they'd had if we didn't have a tournament for sure. They got the greens all deep tine aerated and sprayed and fertilized, and all the fairways have been sprayed, and about half the roughs between rains. We had 5 inches of rain out there Sunday. Friday, we had 5 inches of rain out there, and we still played golf Saturday. So it's going, I think February, March is gonna be a decent month, so. If you have any other questions, you give Dennis a call.
Maybe just one question, because I don't think most of the people here weren't on. We had a flooding problem a few years ago where we had, what, on that backside, I
Yeah.
forget which holes.
Number
Have
8.
we, is that, are we, protected from that happening
No,
again, or that's
no.
still a possibility?
When that happens when the Arkansas gets full and Fort Gibson doesn't let out any water.
Okay,
And then Grand lets out water, it gets down there and then it backs up. And when the river backs up, it backs up the creek and then it floods. So that's always a possibility.
okay,
It all depends on how full the Arkansas gets, you know, down there with Muskogee, you know, they don't want that to flood, so they back all that up. And that's how the flood
that's a
gets.
sequence of events.
That's
that
how the
cause that.
flood gets there, yeah.
Okay,
And we didn't have any problem this time.
So I think the three of us are the only ones that was on the board when we got the golf carts, correct? That's been what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
This is either the second or third year, maybe, third year for them.
Is it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So since.
I think we're going into our third year now with them.
So since the new golf carts upgraded the equipment, golf has actually done better year after year. Is that kind of our consensus on the investment we made?
Yeah, and we look for those to last another 3 to 4 years. We'll get 5, 6 years out of these.
And when we replaced them, some of that equipment was over 10 years old, correct?
Some of the other equipment, the mowers and things were, yeah, very old.
And it's amazing, making an investment, adding money, and the investment is well worth what we put in.
Oh, yes. The money that the city put into that, what, 4 years ago? Has reaped back multiple times with the condition of the golf course now because of that equipment. If it hadn't been for that equipment, we wouldn't be in near as good a shape as we are now.
Membership has what, more than doubled?
Oh, yeah. And our membership is now up over 300 people. It's never been over 200 in the 40 years I've been here, and it's up over 300 now. Part of that's due to that special they had a few years ago,
Yep.
and then the rest of it's just the golf course is just playing so well, and people are using it. We're getting a lot of out-of-town use now, too.
Well, I mean, my whole reason why I'm saying that is, it was, people thought, you know, we're spending too much money at the golf course. Are we spending too much money at the golf course, or is our investment well worth what we did? And I think the answer is, it's more than well worth what we did.
Oh, yeah.
well, I do think that we, in looking at what made a difference was, we used to only have, you had to buy a full year membership. she had to cough up, what, $1,000 and some dollars?
That's correct.
To get a membership. Those memberships have actually dropped, right? We no longer fill up the cart sheds.
Oh, yeah, they're full again.
Are they full again?
Oh, yeah, they're full
Well,
again.
good. That's a recent phenomenon then.
They're full again.
Yeah.
But we used to have, they didn't have, you had to have a full year membership. We've now gone to monthly memberships, that you can buy it on a monthly basis. And we've seen a lot of
Still an
people-
annual membership, but you can pay for it monthly.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's,
And that's helped a lot of the younger
yeah,
families that we now have out there. And that's been a lot of help too. But yeah, even the full pay memberships.
have
are-
come back, good.
Yeah, we're back. And right now, we may have one cart stall open, is all.
But we used to have what, like a 5 to 10 year list?
Oh, at one time, yeah.
People were putting it in their wills,
Oh, yeah.
trying to,
Yeah, you couldn't get
We
one.
had.
you couldn't get one.
When I came 4 years ago, I was on the second page. 4 years ago.
You know, I know,
And,
I've heard rumors, but
and we had the same
thing
thing.
that would really impact probably the revenue out there, would be cart path improvement. And, I've heard rumors that the Cherokee Nation was gonna help.
Right now, we have in the bank, we've got 25,000 from the Cherokee Nation. We got 50,000 in our budget from for this year, which will probably be done this spring.
okay,
And we'll work on the worst cart path
Right.
first.
that'll make a major
And-
difference.
And if we can get another 50,000 in the budget for next year, we may be able to finish up the cart paths, because it's probably gonna be about 110, 120,000 to do that. But, yeah, we're gonna get that's in the offering for this spring to do that yet.
Okay, good.
And the bridges. We need to replace all those bridges.
Yes.
That are so narrow, you can't get across them anymore. And that's part of that same project with the cart paths, would be the bridges, is all part of that same project. We did replace the one bridge, we put that bridge back in, the wooden bridge, they're on 2 to go to the 2 T-blocks.
Right.
So you can get across that creek now, but you can't, the rest of them are still too small.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And I think they were put in the 60s or 50s, when everything was a 3-wheel cart.
So Bill, who would come in and do those cart paths?
Bill?
Bill, is there a company that we hire to come in and do those for us, or is that something Dennis and his crew does?
Well, we gotta get it, we're trying to get a bid from the asphalt people, and then
Okay.
we've got a
And you,
couple,
with Keith Sanders on that, was Keith?
companies that will bid
Yeah,
on doing the paths. We have to get bids on all
So I'm
that.
just getting ready to say that the time is getting short if we're gonna use your $50,000 from this year's budget, because it goes away. I mean, it doesn't
It goes
carry
away in
over.
July,
Yeah,
first
so,
of July, so yeah.
They'll use it before then.
So
you got 4 months left.
if the $50,000 is not used, then it will be budgeted for the next.
The next time.
Likely it will be
Right.
budgeted for the next year.
But then that's another year that'll take to get it done. I mean, so it'd be nice if we could get it done in this year's budget and in next year's budget.
Right.
That-
So-
that-
could free up some more for next.
So we built up some reserves in the golf course, section. So that $50,000 is completely supported and completely funded from golf course revenues. So
it doesn't go away.
no, it doesn't go away. It stays there. It stays there. And then the matching fund from Cherokee Nation that's been committed, that will also add to that.
Oh, okay.
So if that doesn't happen this year, it will, in this fiscal year, we hope that it does. Just
Right.
Get it bid out, get it done. It might even carry over to the next year.
Okay.
So.
So it wouldn't take another extra year. Okay, all right. It's good to know. Okay.
In the previous years, you guys, in the previous years, by February and March, the golf course was in the hole, budget-wise. Every year, we were in the hole. And the last couple of years, that hasn't happened, so we're going in the right direction.
Yep.
And the cart paths will really help us, and we're gonna work on that hard. Anything else on the golf course?
Thank you, Bill.
Item number 7, discuss and possible action regarding Cherokee Nation use of Whitaker Park on April 22nd, 2023, or April 29th, 2023, for their Cherokee National Holiday Traditional Native Games.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion made?
Is there,
Motion?
Yes.
Motion.
Yes,
Motion
motion
made,
made.
seconded, okay. Discussion.
I got a general question, being a newbie here, is there some general guidelines that you follow to allow people to have that, or do they just come and ask and we pick and choose? Or are there some guidelines that say, well, you know, if you're in these guidelines, then it's just a matter if it's available?
Do they have to go under contract? Is there a certificate of insurance they have to provide?
No, basically, I'm the one that usually, being there's no reservations in the park, really like for shelters and stuff. So when they come to me with an event, that most of these have been held year after year, then I say well, you need to come to the park board, get it approved. That's the closest to like a reservation, because it's a public park. It's not like we shut the park down, you know,
Right?
just because an event's going, if somebody wants to come and have a birthday party. So, once you approve it, then usually the people get with me, and we go from there, what can be done, not be done, but there's no written, because every event's different, you know.
So if there's no real guidelines, we really couldn't turn anybody down, could we?
I mean, it's a public park, by all rights, no.
So it's just a
It's
matter of
just
scheduling then?
It's kind of a scheduling type, in case someone
Just
else
trying to
wants to have
educate
another
myself
event.
a little bit, get some
But-
background.
Like I said, they're still, you know, informed that, like I said, you know, if somebody wanted to come and have a birthday party, you know, then they still can. Most of what they done on this was down below the pool and north of the pool. Most of their events that they done before on the Cherokee Nation thing. It's pretty neat what they do. It's like the old native games and stuff. Pretty neat.
And Ron, I think the reason that that's kind of happened over the years is it's easier to operate it that way than if we put in a reservation system and then people start coming in on a regular basis and saying, oh, I want the shelter this
Like-
day, and I need it for the next 3
It's not a
months.
barrier, they
It's-
have to get it
Right.
approved.
The hardest one
Yeah.
is
But
wedding.
we would be very pressed to turn somebody down because we go,
The-
Yeah.
we would be very.
The hardest one
Yeah.
are weddings, because people will plan months ahead for weddings. And so when they get with me, I explain to them that, okay, there's no reservations. It's public. So what I tell them is have someone at the shelter as soon as possible. Whether you're setting a chair out, it's there. I said, because there's no reservations, no one can come up and run you off saying, hey, we're holding this for, I said, as long as you got it occupied, it's yours for the day. So that's usually what I tell them, have someone get there as early as possible and kind of claim it.
Sure.
We've actually took signs down before, even on churches, where, you know, reserved at 2 o'clock for, you know, we've even took them down, like, sorry, but, because once you allow that, you've done opened yourself up, you know? And if there's a number to reach someone, and I'll, you know, try to contact them and stuff. But yeah, weddings is the hardest, because they'll plan for months, you know, for a wedding, then show up that day, and it's usually at Centennial, you know, and then show up that day, and then someone else is using the shelter, like, but anyway, that's usually what I tell them, where, you know, have someone there occupy a shelter as soon as possible, don't put a sign up or nothing, but as long as you're occupying it, you know, no one can run you off. Anyway,
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those do we pick a day or to let them pick the day? It's either one Sunday or the next Sunday?
either day's fine.
Either day, they'll decide with you then, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So let them know, Frank, or whoever does. Item number 8. Discussion and possible action regarding the Relay for Life event in Whitaker Park on Friday, June 2nd, 2023.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item number 9, discuss and possible recommend council action regarding the use of Whitaker Park by the Mays County Amateur Radio Club on Saturday, June 24th, 2023 through early Sunday, June 25th, 2023 for their annual field day event. This happens every year.
I'll make that motion.
Motion's made and seconded.
Who was the second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 10. Discuss, possibly recommend council action regarding accepting the bid from M&M Properties LLC in the amount of $12,804 for repair of the Whitaker Park Pool Building from the Park Pool Repair and Maintenance Account 2-219-5099, $12,275.54 is to be paid from the OMAG insurance settlement with Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, with the difference of $528.46. One other bid was received from G&W Construction and Fencing Company in the amount of $15,553. One other bid was requested from Kegel Construction and Supply, but was not received.
Mr. Chairman, this is regarding the hole in the Whitaker Park pool structure there that was caused by a pickup truck running into it, and that happened last October. The question you might ask is, well, why does it take this long? Why does it take this long? Well, one's an insurance company talking to another insurance company and finally making the claim. We did kind of press our insurance company with that, finally got the word back in this month. And you'll see on this claim information page, we got that back on March the 10th. And so we're asking for this board to recommend to City Council that we spend that out of that particular line item, and then the majority of that is a claim that we have received, that we will receive from our insurance carrier. You have the items in your packet. You have the bid items toward the back. I think the next to the last page is M&M, who has a low bid. We did request 3 bids and 2 were submitted.
Have we already been paid the insurance claim?
Yes, the check
I
is.
believe we have. The money is.
So
yeah.
so we've already been paid on the claim, it's just,
Yes,
It's pretty much a wash within $500.
yes.
Yes.
do we have to fix it?
Yeah, I would say it would be appropriate to fix it, yes.
Well, I'm gonna probably be the ugly one in the room, but I'm just gonna say it. I'm not interested in spending that much money on a building that we don't know if we're gonna fix or not, especially we don't know have the funds for it next year. And I mean, no disrespect to anybody.
Understand.
But for that much money, to spend $12,000 on a hole, and we're not even have funding to fix the pool is just,
Yeah, we're not spending the money, it's insurance.
well, it doesn't, I mean, it's still yet, but I mean, we're fixing a hole in a wall that we don't even know we're gonna fix a
I
pool.
have to get all these calls, how tacky it looks.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. I agree with you totally. However, when
How's it-
people drive by our park and they see things boarded up, it,
I'm just saying, it's on,
I realize it's
for
not being
$12,000, do we need to spend $12,000, or is there some other way we can do it cheaper?
I think $12.
How secure is it now?
Have we had any vandalism?
No, I mean.
At least paint
We keep waiting for someone to. Plywood.
At least paint the boards.
you'll have homeless living in there.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, I mean, the only thing I'm saying
Do
is,
a homeless shelter.
I mean, I understand why we did it, and it's the right thing to do. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
for that much money on a building, we don't know. So this, I mean, even if we were asked today, can we fix it for what we talked about a year ago? Who knows?
I think since the money's not coming out of our pocket, that we need to put it back into the pool and fix the eyesore and just move on.
For $500.
It would've been nice if that money could've been used in an overall project at
Yes,
the pool. but
absolutely.
That won't happen.
Not this year.
Nope.
We can't let it look like that for a year.
What happens to that money if it's not used? Let's say we just leave it boarded up, just for discussion purposes. Just leave it boarded up like it is. What happens to that $12,000 eventually?
Will the insurance come back on us because it was
No,
for that purpose?
No, they're very paid.
Assuming they don't come back on us, what would the city, what would happen with the money? Would it
We
just
just put the
be
money in the
absorbed
fund.
somewhere else?
The money would just go in the fund. It would just go in the general fund and as surplus $12,000. And eventually would be budgeted to spend somewhere else.
So,
Yeah.
go away.
I mean, it's wasteful to.
I think the ethical
I
thing
get
to
it.
do,
We're not using it,
Yeah.
and we're gonna redo it or get rid of it or whatever, but we have to think about what it's gonna look like
It's a
for the
good
next
point.
year.
It's a good point, but.
I mean, I just, my general thought process is that, you know,
Huh?
Look how many pickleball courts you
Just
You could
bring
do-
Liv's
From
pickleball.
discussion I've heard, you could do about a quarter of a pickleball court.
And then we have an ugly hole.
Life is boring.
I would entertain a motion to recommend.
I'll make a motion, item 10.
Second.
Second, motion second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just had a couple of logistical questions, kind of help educate me on how this works. It looks like that, who was the insurance company, Progressive? They probably came in and did an estimate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
they did an evaluation, yes.
so they sent an adjuster in to say, this is what we
Yeah.
think it's gonna cost.
that's what it said. They did a pretty good estimate.
So now, it looks like though, if I'm reading their verbiage, their letter, that we're actually using our insurance company to fund it, and they have to file against Progressive because it's saying subrogation.
We've got our money.
Well, it says here, completing repairs through your property insurance and having them present a subrogation claim to Progressive.
So who do we get the insurance money from? Our insurance or Progressive?
Probably, I would assume it's probably
But
ours.
isn't subrogation between the insurance companies if you've already got the money?
It was progressive, I dealt with.
Well, I mean, I thought subrogation was your ability to go against another insurance company to get, that's how you got your money, not, your insurance paid for it. Maybe, that's why, reason I'm asking the question. I don't know that I understand. I was just curious if that's the way it works. Did we have to,
Progressive called me, because they even explained to me that kind of a lot of things depreciated and all that, that they may not actually pay for the full amount, which which they didn't, and it would be up to us to determine how we pay for
The other,
yeah, it was all through,
so they said this is what their expectations of what it would cost is, another 500 and whatever it was, is what they wasn't gonna pay.
yeah, we got the bids, we sent them in to them, and he got with me, and from then I sent him the
That's-
information.
So,
So if,
they offered less than what the actual repair cost
Right.
was, about 500, in
That's what the
hopes
500,
that we wouldn't fix it and save them $500,
right.
and we'd pocket the money. That's interesting.
we still got $500.
So, okay,
It never even came up, if we don't fix it, so.
yeah. I think the second question I've got, and Frank, I asked you about this, is we didn't have a structural engineer look at it, I understand. I'm no structural engineer. But I think about that load that's setting over that hole in the wall. And I know there's forces pushing down on that hole. And if that was a garage or something, you would have.
We've been in it since, I'm not gonna say something's settled, I mean, it's, you know, even though it's just plywood, you know, it's all, we got them secured in pretty good with a bunch of screws. So we go in there and check, kinda like what we brought up earlier, just to make sure no one's in there, but, I mean, it's not like it's,
So we're not, you don't think there's any sag in there
yeah,
That
I'm
we
not
would-
gonna say that some that hadn't.
settled or?
Settled some, but, yeah, I mean, it's not like it's gotten worse and stuff, you know.
I guess we'll know when they put the blocks in if that top block is about 3/4 of it.
Mortar.
Yeah,
More
just
mortar.
more or less mortar. There's,
More or less mortar, yeah.
okay.
We're being-
Always to fill a hole that way.
Well, I just wondered if it would be worth asking our city engineer just to look at it and say, do you have any concerns here with the load that's on this, any settling or structural integrity issues? If, you know, want to make sure that we don't come back later and find out.
We can certainly ask him for.
I mean, yeah, he could drive by and look at it, I think, pretty quick, and
Yeah, he would
Another
drive by.
2,000, he'll look at it.
He would. So, y'all like, certainly do that.
I hope he doesn't look at it like he looked at that crib, or our curving over at the
Well,
parking
just-
lot.
Oh, me. So do we need to, I mean, since we already have a first and a second,
Ready to vote?
I think we're ready to
ready to
vote.
vote?
Ready to vote? We're ready.
I have an opinion before council meeting. This is referring to council. I have the opinion before council meeting.
Motion's been made and seconded. We've had discussion. Give me a roll call.
Cannagiser,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Buffington,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Graves,
Yes,
Shelby.
No.
Item number 11, unforeseeable business. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor. Thank you, everybody.
I'm gonna start bringing.
I would have sworn this